Give the warmest New Orleans welcome home to Jay Duplass.
New Metairie in the house, everybody.
That's so good. Well, welcome home.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out in time and space and coming to a location. It's a very novel idea.
Yeah. When you were growing up, aspiring to be a filmmaker, did you think you'd be coming back to your hometown, sitting in front of about 350 like local filmmakers and talking about your body of work?
No.
Can you give us a little snapshot of even the very first moment that you were like, you know what, I'm going to make movies?
Yeah, so growing up in New Metairie, there wasn't a lot going on, you know? You just go to Lake Pontchartrain and catch a fish that your parents would not let you eat because it was deeply contaminated.
Yeah, that tracks.
You know, just playing sports in the streets. But then I think in the early 80s, cable came to town, right? And I didn't know what that meant, but everybody in my neighborhood was very excited about cable coming to town. I thought they were going to like lie a giant cable across the ground.
Yeah, plug it in.
And they kind of did for a while. It took them a while to get it underground. But cable came to town, and you know, we just started watching movies. We just started watching movies like crazy. And back then, HBO was not a curated channel. You know, you'd come home from school and you'd watch Sophie's Choice. You know?
Would you really? What would you watch?
No,
Sophie's Choice?
100%. We were watching like hard-hitting relationship dramas, basically. There was nudity at 3 p.m. I mean, it was just like, and in a weird way, we were such home kids and craft kids and stuff like that. You know, our parents were like very busy trying to make money and stuff. So like, while our friends were being taken to see Star Wars, like we kind of had the childhood where like it was very hard to get my parents to get us to do anything. So we were just staying at home watching these old school relationship dramas and, you know, having these deep existential moments at 12 years old. And getting attuned to, honestly, like mostly what I do now, which is like relationship comedy.
Yeah, that's so good. Did anything specifically about New Orleans inspire you, or were you just like, oh, I'm in a normal suburb in America? Or it's such a culture hub of the world, honestly?
Yeah, I mean, well, the real truth is we just watch movies because we love movies. We never dreamed in a million years we could have made movies or been involved in the industry or whatever. I mean, honestly, when we turned 13, you know, we started like getting into the music scene here and just going to see bands. And I mean, frankly, like the biggest influence of New Orleans at the time was like, we definitely wanted to be artists, but like the only like, I guess like image of what a successful artist could be to us was kind of like being like a 60-year-old black rhythm and blues musician.
Yeah.
So we tried to become that. So we played a lot of like white boy funk that's what like our high school and college bands were like. You know, and there was like a tiny moment for that with like the Red Hot Chili Peppers or whatever, but like, you know, we didn't want to be the Red Hot Chili Peppers. We wanted to be the Meters. You know, that's what we wanted. It was hilarious, that music coming out of, you know, 5'2", 99-pounders. But that's what we tried for a while, and we, you know, I went to college in Austin, Texas, and that was a big music scene, and that was a big part of like our lives, is like just being in bands and trying to make it as musicians.
Is that why you went to Austin? Because, I mean, you wanted to be a filmmaker, but weren't you thinking psychology? And where were you at? And why did you go to Austin?
Frankly, I just went to Austin because it was the best school I could get a full scholarship to. That's just, I mean, I didn't really know that Austin was as cool as it was. This was 1991 when I started college there. And what the lucky thing that happened to me is, and I was in bands in Austin in college, but the lucky thing that happened is I landed in really like the hotbed of DIY filmmaking in 1991. we made silly movies and stuff, with our parents' home video camera, with like the camera and then the cable that went to the VTR.
Yep.
We did that stuff, but that was just for fun. We never dreamed that would be a career path or something that we could actually do. But in 1991, I don't know if you guys remember these movies. 1991, Slacker, Rick Linklater's first movie was in the Midnight Movie Theater, and it was, it was showing all year round. And it was a $20,000 movie that was made by a guy who was walking around town in jeans and a T-shirt. And I was like, oh, I wear jeans and a T-shirt. I don't have $20,000, but I think at that time, that was an imaginable amount of money. Like, I could see a world where in the next 5 years, I could raise 20 grand. I mean, now 20 grand, you can't even buy a snowball with 20 grand. But,
Right.
At the time, and then the next year, I think it was Robert Rodriguez came out with El Mariachi, which was also a $20,000 film. And that film was not like a weird, like, cultural documentary piece of art like Slacker. That was like a narrative that was really well told. And Robert Rodriguez was also walking around in jeans and a T-shirt. And I was like, wait a minute, is this something that I could do?
Yeah. So that was really the moment of, okay, I'm going to pursue this.
Yes. I was studying other things at the University of Texas. I was mostly studying psychology, and I had this incredible mentor. I was this graduate student. Her name is Camille, which is like appropriate for New Orleans. But I was like her intern, and when I was graduating my 4th year at University of Texas, she kind of pulled me aside. I remember we were walking up the quad, she just sidled up next to me, and she was like, "Hey, I know that." I was a super nerd. I was like, I had a 4.0. She's like, and she was really smart and ahead of the times. We all know this now, but this is 1995. And she basically said, she's like, listen, you could go to Harvard and get a PhD. And she's like, when you graduate, you're going to go where the job is. And that job is probably not going to be New Orleans, Austin, New York, L.A., Seattle. It might be Nebraska, no shade. But she was just like, you're just going to have to go where they take you.
Yeah.
Now it's like, good luck even going to Nebraska,
Right.
But she was very much ahead of the curve on like, academia is kind of cresting here. And she was like, and I know that you love movies more than you love psychology. You're doing this because you think there's a job in it. And she was basically like, I don't think the job world in academia is going to be as more advantageous than filmmaking is. And it got in my head, and I went straight from that walk to the bursar's office. I don't know what a bursar is still. I don't know if anybody knows what a bursar is.
Anybody?
But I asked them if I went one more year to college, would they extend my scholarship? And they were like, no, we won't, but we'll give you in-state tuition because you've been here for 4 years. So I went to school one more year. I went all in on film. I did what you guys are doing. I got into the film community in Austin. I got involved in Austin Film Society. I met a bunch of filmmakers who are now like working, a lot of them are working filmmakers today. And I kind of never looked back. It was, but it wasn't an easy road. It was, 10 years of, really, to be honest, it was like 8 straight years of pretty much total failure,
Yeah, I've heard you speak about that decade of total failure. And I think from our seat, we're like, oh, he was just unrecognized talent.
No.
Yeah. Can you, what does it mean? What is, failure? Well, miserable, I've heard you say. Give us what that was.
Yeah, that's really good. It's a good thing to talk about because I do think that, being a real artist is about failure as much as it is about success. It's actually way more about failure, and it's actually more than those two things, which are, result-oriented things. It is just about, you know, figuring out who you are and what you uniquely have to offer the world, and tricking yourself into overcoming all the doubts and fears that get in our way. But to be completely honest, I made short films. They sucked. I made a few feature films on digital, and they were not good. The only thing that I really had going for me at the time is that when I knew I made a when I made a stinker, I knew I made a stinker.
How'd you know?
I don't know. That is just something peculiar to me, because one of the biggest problems that I see out in the world right now is that when kids make art, they think it's great because they made it. Or they think it's great because it is currently only being distributed at their mother's house. Or more specifically, and this is very inside baseball, but I think we'll probably get into some of this stuff, is that in order to make a movie, you have to work so hard, and you have to do 200 jobs, and you have to build all this internal scaffolding to make the movie work, right? And then when editorial comes, your job is to take the scaffolding down and see if the building can stand on its own. And nobody has told people how to take the scaffolding down, because the scaffolding is also a defense mechanism. You know, it's how we protect ourselves, but it's also how we build a piece of art out of nothing. How, you know, you have an idea at 3 a.m, and then 2.5 years later, 70 people are on set waiting for you to tell them what to do. And you're like, I don't want to tell you this, but I just made all this up. You know, so that, I think, is actually the major culprit. Is, you know, you really do have to let your art go into the world and live and be judged. And you really need to ask people, hey, did you love this? Or did you like it? Why didn't you love it? Like, is there something that was missing? And the one thing that I had more than anything else is I did have that thing to know. You know, I mean, first of all, I just intuitively knew when I would show it to an audience, it was like, that fell flat right there. I thought that was going to be the funniest thing that would ever happen, and it certainly wasn't. Oh no, they laughed at this. That wasn't supposed to be funny. That's one of the worst ones. Totally. You know.
And how would you personally deal with that? Like, you know the thing. Like right now, I'm hearing that you have, like, artists need a tool of how to take down the scaffolding when they're being rejected or it's not good. But, like, take us back to that decade when they would not laugh, or they laugh at the wrong thing. I mean, what got you to go, okay, I have to, like, do the next one?
Part of it was frankly, is just having my brother in the game with me. You know, is just having somebody else. Having a partner in crime is huge. And I think all writer-directors need a creative producer. You know, I just think it's, you know, it's very, very hard to just do that on your own. I think to do it without a partner on any level probably requires a sociopathic level of confidence, which I don't have. My brother has a little bit of it. He's a little bit quarterbacky in that way, you know? So I kind of like rode that wave quite a bit. But I mean, really the two of us just knowing, just like, and you know, and knowing when to say, you know, sometimes you make a short film and you have to decide whether you're going to spend $1,000 applying to festivals. And we were both really good at just being like, I don't think it's worth it on this one. I don't think it's worth it. Like, let's just let this one go. Let's put our money and our time and our energy into the next one, you know? And that is one of the main things that, in retrospect, you know, I'm obsessive about detail, but my brother is a volume person. And it was the volume, ultimately, that got us to a place where some people were like, hey, wow, what are you doing next? Can I work on your next thing? Or a film festival will be like, we love this. when are you going to do a feature? You know, because then, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into this as this day goes on, but you know, it is a big part, I think, of filmmaking is being in conversation with your audience. You know, is really, because that's what we're doing when we're making movies. We're making a piece of art that's going to be watched by strangers in a dark room 3 years later, and you will never meet them. So we have to do everything that we can do to close that gap and to be in relationship with our audience and to understand what they're feeling and to understand what they want of you, you know, because ultimately, I don't know, the way that I guess I see a film is like when you have that idea at 3 a.m, right? And you that spark and you wake up and you start writing and you're so excited. That idea is 100% yours. That movie is 100% yours. And then you tell your partner about it, and you tell them, and you're like, don't say anything negative. I just need you to nod and act like you're freaking thrilled. That's what I need right now. And I think that's a good thing to say, right?
Yeah.
Say it, because that's what you need. You do that step, the movie is now 99% yours and 1% to the audience. And when you lock picture and you give that film away to a festival or a distributor, it is 100% belonging to the audience. And if it isn't, you probably got some scaffolding that you didn't take down. You're probably making adjustments in your own mind about what you think it is or what you wanted it to be, but you know, the actor was in a weird mood on that one Monday and he didn't give you what you needed. You know, all those things, nobody cares. They don't care what your mental scaffolding is when they see that movie at a Regal cinema in the middle of nowhere and they've never met you, they've never even heard your name.
Right. So would you say for This Is John, which is the 7-minute short for $3,
$3.
that was submitted to Sundance after, I would say, a nervous breakdown, but I'm going to throw in the towel.
100% nervous breakdown.
Was that, what you just described to us, was that realized in that moment? Because here you have this decade-ish time of like, I'm doing this, I'm going to throw in the towel, I've got to rethink this. You submit this. Is that the first letting go moment? You're like, wow, okay, I have, you know, what, to walk us through, did you know that was going to be good? Did you know that was going to be received well?
So yeah, the way that film worked is I was 29 and I was about to turn 30, and I had no success with anything that I had made. You know, I'd gotten in tiny little festivals here and there, but like no one came back and was like, "You need to keep going, bro. This is important. The world needs you." Nobody said that. And I was just coming to the end of my rope. You know, it was just like everybody that I graduated with was like, you know, making money and getting married and, you know, having kids, you know, and I was just getting left behind every year more and more. And I just felt like I was torturing myself and my family and loved ones, you know. And my brother knew that I was kind of getting to the end of my rope, and the way that day happened is he said, "We're going to make a movie today." And I said, "You're out of your mind. We don't have a script. I'm depressed. We don't have a 16mm camera." This is back in the days when everyone was shooting 16mm. We don't have lights. No one's interested in working with us because we're not good at what we do, you know? I mean, that's how you get people to work for you for free. It's like they're just like, wow, something's happening here, you know? And he said, "We're going to use Mom and Dad's home video camera," which we had at our apartment in South Austin for some reason. We had taken it back to Austin with us. He's like, "I'm going to go get a tape, and you're going to come up with an idea by the time I come back."
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is a real nail in the coffin moment right here. I mean, it really felt like this is it. You know, this is where we crash and burn and we film it. And and I leaned into it. I was like, he came back and I only had one idea, and it was something that had happened to me the week before, which is, this is in the old days of answering machines, where I was trying to redo my answering machine message, because what it was on the machine is it was a casting call from like a few months back.
Yeah.
That for a failed movie that I just still had not wiped the machine clean. That's where I was at, guys. And I just had to redo it and say, "Hi, this is Jay. I'm not home right now." And it took me about 20 tries, and I had a bit of a nervous breakdown doing it.
Wow.
And I told that to Mark, and he laughed and gave me a hug. It was like it was one of those things that I only would have told him. I only would have told him, like, dude, you're not gonna believe. Like, I was in tears on the floor. It was an epic battle of man versus machine. And the machine was not the Terminator 2. It was a $17 answering machine And he laughed and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna get dressed in your Kelly People outfit," because I was doing temp work. And he's like, "What's my name?" And we looked on the back of the shirt, and it said John Ashford. That was the name of the shirt. And I was like, "Your name's John Ashford." That's where I was at. I was just like, this is all I got.
Wow.
And he came in the door, and he was in a similarly ready to break moment. And he tried many times to perfect the personal greeting of his answering machine. And he did some really funny stuff in there, and I was talking to him, and I was filming it. We just filmed one take for 20 minutes. He ended up having a breakdown. He cursed a machine to high heaven and fell down on the floor and cried. And it went to Sundance. It played in a short film program with another short film that cost $750,000. And they liked ours better.
Wow.
And those other people were very not happy about it.
So, I mean, I just love this because you have the greatest body of work, which we'll dive into, and you have so much going on, and we have so much to talk about. But when people say your name, or when I'm deep diving you, looking, studying for this, it always comes back to that film. And I think it's everything you just described. And I also think it's also this kind of portal. Of course, you talk about your audience. It put your brand out, for lack of a better term, but the brand of what you do, the style, you and your brother. But it was like this portal for filmmakers to feel like they're your friend, because you were the guy in the jeans and t-shirt now. You became that guy. You became the guy with, like, what do we have? A nervous breakdown, an answering machine, my brother worrying about volume, so he's making me do a movie.
In a crappy apartment.
Yeah. Do you feel that has been, throughout your career, a place where filmmakers, like, know you and have been able to feel like, well, I can do it too? I mean, I think that's, what do you think?
Yeah, it has been surreal to become that person to up-and-coming filmmakers. And I don't take it lightly. And there are so many things to unpack about it. So, for instance, this is just one small thing, is like, I grew up obsessed with the Coen brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That's seeing Coen brothers movies is the first thing that made me realize that people made movies, and that even though you can't see them, you know a lot about them. I just thought movies were just being pumped in along that cable. I didn't know human beings made them, you know? But I was trying to be the Coen brothers, and I'm not. It turns out I'm the opposite. They are so controlled, and everything is so beautiful. And it turns out our thing was like documentary realism and, the hilarious desperation of a middle-class person,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know any of that. And that's something that no film schools ever teach you. They don't teach you that most important thing that I mentioned earlier, which is your job is to figure out who you are and what you uniquely have to offer the world. And I think the even trickier part about it is that you can't figure it out, you can't decide it, and you can't do it with cognition. that's what art is. It is the communication. So you have to make your art, and then other people tell you.
Yeah.
When I shot the film, I was like, I don't know. I mean, frankly, I didn't think it was anything super special. What I knew is what we shot was entertaining and that it had value. And that was more than I could say about a lot of the things that I shot before, you know? But from front to back, something really happened, and I captured something that happened. In retrospect, it is the only thing I had to offer that day. It is the only thing, and it was the first time that I put out in the world unadulterated, you know, wounds and flaws and all. I mean, I remember the first screening at Sundance. We were sitting next to a couple, and the wife was laughing so hard, and the husband was recoiling, and he thought it was a horror film. And he was looking at his wife like, "You're crazy. Are we watching the same thing?" And I remember watching them and being like, whoa, something is happening here. And it has something to do with the fact that, like, the movie didn't come from it didn't come from all the ideas that I'd built up over the years about what a film should be or whatever. It was just like, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah.
This is what it is. You want to know what's happening to me right now? I'm having a nervous breakdown in South Austin in a tiny apartment that I'm embarrassed to live in.
Yeah.
You know, and that people felt that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you take. Do you feel you have taken that throughout your whole career? That's
pretty much all I do now. It's just like, you want to see something else? I mean, our second film was called Scrabble, and it was like, we joke about it. It was like, it was Mark and Katie, his wife now, but it was two, like, you know, we had failed so epically over 10 years. We were just like, okay, we made a good movie about one guy in a kitchen. Let's add Katie, and it's literally two people in a kitchen fighting over a game of Scrabble. And so we were just like, let's just do what we are uniquely qualified to do. And it has over time. Like, we got to Hollywood, and we made our first feature in this new realm, was called The Puffy Chair. It was a $10,000 movie, which was a bunch of short films strung in a row about a relationship that was, like, you know, really having a tough time. You know, and that was exactly what we knew about at that time, is like, you know, when you're in your mid to late 20s and, you know, on Monday you're going to marry this person, on Tuesday you can't get them out of your apartment fast enough, you know? But I remember when we first started getting flown into Hollywood to have meetings, you know, that was Puffy Chair. A lot of people saw dollar signs when they saw Puffy Chair because they saw rom-com. And we were like, that's cool. We'll take those dollar signs. But this is not a rom-com. This is a relationship drama that happens to be funny, but this is a hard movie. It had its 20th year. We're actually doing it right now. There's a theatrical rerun where it had its 20-year reunion, and I recently saw it, and I was like, man, this is a hard movie. It's funny. It's super funny, but it's not a rom-com. There's nothing cute about it. But basically, those studios were like, we have this movie, and Sean William Scott is attached, and we'd like you to rewrite it and make it. And we were like, whenever we knew that we were entering a situation where we couldn't do our thing and do it really well, we would say no. And we said no so many times. And it was so hard to do because we still hadn't made money yet, you know, because like those little movies don't really make you any real money, you know. It's not until you get into the WGA and you start getting paid to write scripts. But we did stick to like what we felt we could do well.
Right. So what were the pressures then? I mean, well, how did you navigate that, going from short film also to feature, which I know you had done features already, but what were the new pressures on top of wanting to stick to your guns about what you want to do and how you want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, our whole goal was just to keep going back to Sundance because that was like our lifeline to something more than just, making art in a tiny apartment in Austin.
Yeah.
So we made a few short films, and then the head of Sundance, after like our third short film, was like, "Hey, when are you guys gonna make a feature?" And that's something that I try to talk about too. You know, it goes part and parcel with your friends and other crew members and stuff saying like, "Hey, that was amazing. What are you making next? How can I help you?" That feedback, I really do believe that like, Sundance invited us to make a feature film. They didn't know I had made 2 or 3 stinkers before that.
Wow, really?
I didn't tell them. Everybody thought I was 20 and I woke up and I made a great movie on accident. And I was like, I did nothing to dispel that myth. But I didn't believe the myth, So Puffy Chair genuinely was like, okay, we know how to make a world-class short film. We had gone all over the world with our short films and won many festivals, and like people were like, this is top notch. Other people were saying. And it's weird to me because they were movies that we were making in our kitchen.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like that to me, but I did see them play in front of people. I saw audiences like react, massively to them, and I was like, okay, I can believe this now. And the Puffy Chair is a road trip, and essentially a road trip movie is a bunch of short films strung in a row.
Yeah.
And that's what we felt like we could do, hopefully. But even then, the philosophy going into the Puffy Chair wasn't, I'm ready to make the next great American epic. It was really, please God, don't let me make a piece of shit. Oh, please God, don't let this suck.
Right. Yeah.
But we did know enough to make a movie about who we were and what we uniquely had to offer the world. And, at the time, it was similar to This Is John. It was like my brother was still touring as a musician. He was miserable. That's who the lead character was. He had a touring van, so that was our car. His girlfriend at the time, Katie, who's his wife now, came from this small town in Maine, and we could shoot there, and people would come out and work on, they were begging us to be in our movie, much less charging us,
Yeah.
So we just used available materials.
Right.
And that's how we got that done.
That's so good. Now, let's talk about Cyrus. I love that movie. You guys know Cyrus with John C. Reilly, Marissa Tomei. It's so good. It's exactly what you're talking about. And I love it because the whole time you're on a fine line of like, don't do that, but let me see what happens. Like the whole time. It's so great. And that was your first studio film, right?
Yes.
So first, couple questions about the film. Was that the first time you were getting these big time actors on board?
Yes.
And how did
I
you go
had
about
barely
that?
met a famous person up until that point.
Yeah.
And it was, John C. Reilly, Marissa Tomei, Jonah Hill, and Catherine Keener. It was
Right.
like, very big, heavy hitters.
Great movie.
But we were still making a movie in somebody else's kitchen now. Somebody else's kitchen that we paid a lot of money to have access to. But that was also us being very, very controlled about what we thought we could do well. We had heard that John C. Reilly had seen the Puffy Chair. I mean, this is like how brass tacks the process was, because and the best way I can describe it is like, before we were just working with random ideas in our head and just seeing what stuck to the wall. Now we heard that John C. Reilly loved Puffy Chair so much that he was hosting screenings at his house.
He was.
And inviting his friends.
I love him. I don't
to
know
come
about
see
him.
them. Yeah, and we were like, that's one of our favorite actors. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's like exactly the kind of person we would want. And so we wrote a movie for him without ever even meeting him.
Wow.
And so we wrote Cyrus for him. Other people could have played that role, but he was perfect for it.
Yes.
And we knew he'd be open to it. And he lived, in Altadena at the time, and we shot 5 miles away from there. And that's how we got him into that movie. And of course, Searchlight was involved, and they were paying us to write the script. And And we had met Jonah Hill at a film festival, and he loved one of those earlier short films. He was obsessed with it, and there were some cool things about Jonah at that point in time where, we had dinner last night. You were talking about the way I use actors and stuff is, at that time, Jonah was just known as the chubby, funny best friend.
Yeah.
You know?
He was new on the scene in a way, right?
That was all, yeah, and he would just come in and just make everybody laugh. And then we had gotten to know him, and we're like, this is the most Machiavellian person we've ever met in our life. This dude is, I love Jonah so much. He's incredible. He's a killer.
There's a danger to him in
Jonah
his
is a dangerous actor, and we felt and saw that, and we were like, I think Jonah is going to play. He was not the first idea for the person to play Cyrus, who's is a person who's trying to dismantle his mother's relationship with John C. Reilly, if you haven't seen the movie. And he is...
Go see it. It's great.
Very Machiavellian about it. And we, as we got to know him, we're like, this is the funniest and scariest version of it, because he looks so friendly, and he will murder you.
Yeah.
He will cut your Achilles heel in the driveway. You know what I mean?
The whole movie's like that. You're like laughing. You're like, oh my God, you can't get away with this in a movie. It's so funny. And then all of a sudden you're like, he might actually kill John C. Reilly.
We're getting
like,
some
this
more
is actually
for his safety. Yeah. And it was the kind of thing too where when we told the studio that that's who we wanted to cast, they're like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
It doesn't make any sense. He's a teddy bear, and we're like, we know him. He ain't no teddy bear.
He ain't no teddy bear.
Yeah, he's a teddy bear with a bomb in it. And so, we eventually, I think we did some screen tests, and we got him in the movie.
Wow.
And that's the movie that got him Moneyball, which got him an Oscar nomination, and then,
you have a way with that, Jay.
My thing is I just want to use people. I want to be used to my fullest extent, and I want to use other people to their fullest extent. It's the most exciting thing to me. I think we did it for Amanda Peet in our TV show Togetherness, where she was just the friendly girlfriend always, and I got to meet her. And, she went to Columbia University. She was raised on the Upper West Side. She's a brilliant cuckoo head.
Yeah.
She's a nut job,
and
I love her, and she's my sister. And I was just like, I'm gonna put you in this show, and I need you to go nuts. And she's like, I've been waiting 20 years for somebody to say that.
And you know what? I have to say, when I saw Togetherness when it first came out, not that it was a comeback for Amanda Peet, because she's Amanda Peet, but I saw her and just became the biggest fan of her through that show. So, we talked about this at dinner. Sorry you guys weren't there. But, Jay, you really have this way of seeing people. Frank told you this. And what I've noticed is it's like you see somebody and then it sparks your creativity. Like you decide to write for them, like you just explained with John C. Reilly, or you have your nervous breakdown, you decide to write that, or whatever that, you have so many examples of that. So I would love to talk about Togetherness, because what's the origin, and can we talk about your friend, Steve?
Yeah, so Togetherness was a TV show that I made for HBO in 2014, 2015. We had 2 seasons. I didn't know why it got canceled because it was wildly successful, but it turned out that that show Divorce was starting up, and when Sarah Jessica Parker comes to HBO and has a show about middle-aged malaise, that's the one that goes forward because she built HBO, But yes, the origin story of Togetherness was, similarly to This Is John and The Puffy Chair. It was born of, deeply personal life experiences. So my brother in 2012, 2013 just started to become a famous actor. And he... little known fact, acting is way more fun, way more lucrative, and way easier than writing and directing an original piece of art. I don't know if any of you have experienced this. I accidentally experienced it myself, and it's just true. But, all I ever wanted to do was to be the Coen brothers with my brother, and we were on that trajectory. But Mark really, he just fell in love with acting and was getting paid way more, and it was just a lot easier. And Mark was also not really like at the heart, and it took us 10 years to figure this out. He really wasn't a director at heart. You have to want to go to the depths of every person and everything, and so I didn't have a lot going on, and TV was starting up, and at the time, my best friend Steve Zissis, who's from New Orleans, one of the greatest actors who's ever lived, was in LA, and we were joking that he was in a tweener spot, that he wasn't handsome or young enough to be the leading man, and he wasn't fat enough to be the chubby best friend. And we were just laughing about that. And so I just started writing a show for Steve about Steve. Because I just think he's the greatest thing in the world. And, at the time, he was my 225-pound balding Greek muse. And so I just started writing a television show for him. And in my mind, I was going to make a web show just because it was something to do while I was waiting for Mark to get off acting jobs so we could go make movies, honestly.
Right.
It was kind of like, a little affair project on the side.
Yeah.
And it was called Alexander the Great, and it was about him just being great and flailing in Hollywood. And that's really what it was about.
Yeah.
And I wrote it, and I gave it to Stephanie Langhoff, who's also from New Orleans. And she read the script, and I was like, I'd love to just like make this, for $50 with a digital camera in our houses. And she said, Jay, this is an HBO show. And I was like, still an independent filmmaker, still like coming up. Being a showrunner is the hardest job in our industry, period, hands down. There's nothing that even comes close. Yeah. Nothing even comes remotely close. Yeah. And I knew enough to know how big that was and scary that was. And I was just like, I don't want to do it. And she was like, do yourself a favor and submit the script. And so I didn't even go there. Like, my agent just submitted the script to HBO, and they were like, come on in. And we went in, and it was great and terrible at the same time, because they were like, this is not really a TV show. This is kind of more built like a movie, but you have these 4 characters here, and it's all about Steve. If you could make this a 4-hander, this could be a TV show on Sunday night on HBO. And so I spent 9 months re-rigging that pilot and that concept, because I wasn't really a TV person. Right. I'm not really a TV person. I still am not. I can do it. I know what it is now, and I know how to create an open universe, but my instincts are not to do that. My instincts are, making movies that have a beginning and a middle and an end, like the ones I saw at Lakeside Cinema in New Metairie in the 1980s. That's what my body wants to make. It wants to make those kinds of pieces of art.
What is your writing process?
Pain.
Sit there in pain, think it through.
This is something that, just to be totally honest, writing is torture for me. Some people have a lot of fun doing it. I live for being on set and creating moments, trying to like allow lightning to strike in a moment. In order to do that, I have to write scripts so that people will give me money so we can get on set to do that. And in order to create the best circumstances for the lightning to strike, I have to write the scripts to get them to where I want them to be. Just for me, that's all. The process is, I have 7 feature films right now that are between 1 and 4 drafts.
Wow, yeah.
I don't know if any of them will be made. They have not presented them. The finishing has not presented itself to me yet. I show up a lot. I'm always working on a couple of things. I was just telling Dean and Holly that I sometimes I'm at the dinner table staring out the window, and my wife is like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm writing." She's like, "You want to have dinner or you want to be writing?" You know, it's always happening. You know, I don't, you know, I'm 53 years old. I've been writing scripts for 33 years. I would love to say I could get it to a place where it's just fun and just like, I just sit down with a cup of coffee and, no. I think part of it is the struggle of like, you know, knowing when your poop smells, you know. But I also know that like writing a script is the process of pooping out your ideas and then slowly transforming that into a beautiful piece of chocolate cake. You know, I mean that really is the process.
Chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Yes, and it's a long process, and it's the other thing that I just know is that, especially for the kind of filmmaking that I do, is that, you know, when you get an Amanda Peet, for instance, on set, you start to get in conversation more with like who that character is and what they really and what you really want to see them do. And I do little tricks, like I imagine people in it, even if I know I can never cast them, whether they're too famous to get or whether they're not famous enough to fund the movie, you know? Those are little tricks, but ultimately I would say I don't have any tricks. It's just a goddamn grind. It's just a grind.
Just doing it.
It's just doing it, and sometimes it's enjoyable, and sometimes it's a nightmare. The main trick, there's two tricks that I have for writing. The primary trick is if you're having trouble getting going, just read what you wrote prior, and trust me, you're going to want to rewrite it. If you're anything like me, you're just going to be like, oof, I can't even believe I wrote that. So just read prior to writing. That's a huge one that works every time. And then the other trick is when it's not working, quit. And when it's working, ride that horse as far and as long as you can. I've gone on benders of writing where the horse is there, I'm on it, and I will cancel things throughout the week as much as possible, and just try and stay focused and apologize to my family and just be like, I'm AWOL, like this is happening. It's happening. I don't know if that's helpful in any way.
That's great advice. Since you're not much of a TV guy, let's talk about your other hit show, Somebody Somewhere.
Thank you.
It's a really good one. You're producer on that, but you're also a director on that. What would be your advice to producers on how did you know that was going to be a show for you guys?
Very specific circumstance where Bridget Everett, who's this colossal talent, unrealized, that definitely is a theme for me, you know, unrealized talent. And the show is essentially about what would have happened if Bridget Everett had not left her small hometown of Manhattan, Kansas, which is all true. She did move to Manhattan, New York, and did well. But HBO wanted to make a show with Bridget, and Bridget is not famous, you know, and Bridget's friends are not famous, or they kind of are now, but they weren't at the time. And they were like, if we want to make a show with her, we want to make it as cheaply as possible, but it also has to be deeply emotional and funny. And Casey, you know, Bloys, who runs HBO now, who was their executive at the time, was like, why don't we call the Duplass brothers? This is what they do. You know, they know how to make things very cheaply, they know how to make things funny, and they know how to make things heartfelt. And so we met with Bridget and talked to her about the kind of show she wanted to make. And I had never directed anything that I hadn't originated at that point, but everything just made sense. And we cast all of her friends. We cast Jeff Hiller, who just won an Emmy. Who's just like,
It's a tender
the
performance.
the
from
most
him.
beautiful, weirdest dude in the world.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
like not a person who shows up on TV.
Yeah.
You know, unless people are like making fun of him. You
Yeah.
know that like, and so you know, we just made an absolute narrow original show. And it's funny because I call it the last TV show because it was it's like one of the last TV shows to be on HBO on Sunday nights that people still watch on
Yeah.
HBO on Sunday nights. It was an honor to do it. Super special people. We shot it in the suburb, like in the farmland outside of Chicago, and that acting community is really just one of the best.
Yeah.
You know, the day player community there is incredible, and we made a homemade show for HBO, a handmade show for HBO with like non-famous people. And I say it's a last TV show because it does sometimes feel like our whole industry is collapsing, but what it really feels like is one of the last adult comedies that was
Yeah.
allowed to be made, where it's like you're doing comedy for grown-ups.
Yeah. We have a little surprise guest, speaking of unfamous weirdo friends. I'm actually looking, if you look down at your TV, if you want to roll surprise guest number 2.
Is that Mary Catherine?
It is Mary Catherine.
So my first question is, because you are a triple threat, because you can act, write, and direct, could you talk a little bit about how each of those things fulfills you in different ways, or if you have a favorite, one of the three, or one that you feel most comfortable in or that fulfills you more than the others? Because I'm curious about someone who can do all of them, how you hopscotch in between all of them pretty consistently, it seems like. And then the other question is, when you, assuming that other one got answered, when you are casting something and you see an actor's audition, can you talk about what you tend to respond to in other actors, especially from the perspective of someone who is an actor and director and writer? And then I know you sometimes have just gut feelings where you just know. So could you talk a little bit about like that feeling of just having a sense of this person is the right person? All right. Hope y'all are having fun. I wish I was there. Bye.
Those are great questions.
Right?
Okay, so the difference between acting and writing and directing. I'm going to quote my brother on this because I think he has the best way to talk about the difference. If writing and directing is like being a single mother who raises a bunch of children by herself and suffers and dies a million deaths, and then they turn 18 and they never leave home anyways, that's being a writer and director. If that's being a writer and director, then being an actor is like being the drunk uncle who shows up at Christmas for 15 minutes and hands out Oreos, which is what Dean's and my Uncle Hal used to do, and wins the entire day. That's what being an actor is. It's fun. Listen, I'm not saying that being a great actor is easy, but the job of acting is fucking easy. And I know, because I do both.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, look, there are certain times when acting is the hardest thing in the world, and it usually involves being submerged in cold water and having to act like it's a hot, warm day. And you have, like, the flu. You know what I mean? Those are the times when acting are incredible. Or, you know, you're doing a scene and it's activating all your childhood wounds, you know? And you're doing a movie or a TV show, and all of a sudden, like, wow, I'm activated for 6 months. That's what this is, you know? There's some weird stuff with acting, but, you know, writing and directing is the hardest. But, you know, I think the truth is like acting is fun, and it's sometimes fulfilling. Very often, you know, you're just some weird person's concubine.
Yes.
That's the truth about acting. It's like,
Yes.
I gotta do what this guy says for 6 months? I've been here 2 minutes and I'm already done. Like, that is weird, right?
Yes.
But nothing is more fulfilling than making an original piece of art and premiering at Sundance and having 1,300 people stand up and give you a standing ovation with tears in their eyes.
Right.
You know,
Right.
nothing is close to it, and that is why all actors want to be directors, is because they see that they're involved enough.
Yeah.
But there's also the reality of it is that 99% of actors want to direct, and when they get to do it, they never do it again. Because they're there on set, and in their mind, they're like, well, if you're number one on a call sheet or number two on a call sheet, you're there the whole time.
Yeah.
So in their minds, they're like, you know, how much harder could directing be? Like
Right,
50% harder? 50 times harder! 50 times harder. And people think that as a director that you're in charge. You are in some way, but you are, in reality, you are at the mercy of everyone and everything.
Yeah.
You are a servant of 100 people.
Right.
And there are dictatorial directors who do it the other way, but they're still at the mercy of the circumstances coming at them. So it is a real, I mean, look, all art making, if you really get down to it, and if you really want to, surrender to what is being asked of you by the people in front of you and all the people in the dark rooms that you will never meet, it is a process of surrender, and it is a process of giving yourself over, you know. But directing, it really is, you know, even acting, you can walk away at night and have a drink, you know, or whatever. It's just, directing is like, you know, you really live in something for 2 or 3 years, and the way that the economy is, and the way that, you know, the only thing that can really guarantee that the movie will be as great as it can be is your, you know, devotion, your unwavering devotion to the piece of art 14 hours a day for years.
Yeah. Wow. We only have time for a couple more questions, so I do want to talk about Baltimorons.
Yay, thank you.
Yay. It's such a good film. We've talked about it. Well, first of all, it was your directing debut after 14 years.
Yeah, Mark and I had not made an original movie in 14 years, and I had not made an original movie without Mark ever. So it was my first, I mean, outside of you know, just abominations in film school, you know.
Right. And how did that, how is that different in your identity? Tell us the experience of making such a great film, putting your heart in it, making it's yours.
Well,
the hiatus.
yeah, I was scared to death to make a movie without my brother, because if it was bad, I was terrified of that feeling that will be articulated by many critics across this great land. I was afraid of that thing. It was just like, Mark was the special sauce. You know, that was like the fear, and it was a huge fear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because also my whole life, Mark is definitely the more outward one. He is the more social one. He's extroverted, I'm introverted. You know, I was terrified to do the thing, to come back to the thing that I always really wanted to do it on my own, and to fail without him, and to basically feel like, oh, I don't have it, you know? So I was actually trying to come back and make a movie 7 years into the hiatus, but the COVID happened, and you know, the strikes happened, and it was hard for me to get traction making a movie on my own, because the industry was like, well, we don't know if he can make a movie without Mark. So it was like,
After all that success, they wouldn't be like, yes, Jay.
I don't think any studios right now are like, yeah, anybody. They're all like, I don't know. I mean, all studios are just, they're all living in abject fear. You know, they're all living in fear. And right now, you know, the idea of somebody spending millions of dollars on an execution-dependent original piece of art is just like not something that many people are interested in doing whatsoever, unless your name is Quentin Tarantino. We're really at a weird spot right now. So it was a very scary undertaking, and I knew that I had to go back to my roots and build a movie around someone, and make a documentary style, super low budget thing that I could just make with my hands, and at the time, I had become friends with this guy named Michael Strassner, who had this incredible story, and his story was that like a few years prior, he tried to kill himself and the belt broke because, in his words, he was holding a little too much holiday weight. And I was like, this is the most tragic, emotional, and funny thing I've ever heard.
Yes,
and he was like, no, it's okay, you can laugh, And he's just such a special, original dude. He's like, I don't know how to describe him if you don't know the person that I'm talking about, but like, he's a sketch comedian. He's, I don't know how, he's like the most sensitive feminist inside the body of a 1978 New Orleans Saints linebacker. That's the best way I can describe this guy. He's just a giant.
Yeah.
And the sweetest, most open heart. And I just, at a certain point, I was like, I believe in him.
Yeah.
And this is a person, like we were talking about before, who's unexpressed. Like this person is a god, who's just, trolling around doing Instagram videos. And when I heard his origin story and why he's still alive, I started building a story just for him, and populated it with entirely non-famous people, and did the thing that people said you can't do, which is we got the movie into 500 movie theaters last year.
So
at a time when people are like, unless you're a Marvel movie or you have giant movie stars, you can't even broach a movie theater,
Right.
So it was a tiny movie that made its money back and then some by going theatrical, and it was huge for me just because it was like, okay, I am good at this. I can do it on my own. It was really nice because my brother produced it for me and helped me get it done. So we were still able to create something together.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to do it in that old, immigrant-y way, as my therapist says, where we have to lock arms and just ram our heads into a bunch of closed doors.
Right.
And so that movie for me was a huge breakthrough, and it was just a continual process of just, staying very internal and very focused and just, receiving and trying to be a conduit for love and energy and humor and all the reasons why we're here, is we're trying to bring all this good stuff into this experience. And Michael Strassner he's just such a special person. That helped me get over my own fears about not being enough or being a failure without Mark or whatever. It's just like, I could just focus on serving his story and serving him and trying to just being inspired to show the world who he is.
Yeah. I have another non-famous movie star for you to show up on your screen and ask you a question from
This is cool.
the star of Baltimorons. One of the stars, the other star. Number 3, please.
Oh, I have a question. Hi, my name's Liz Larson, and I would like to ask J. Duplass, why are you so darn cute? It's a puzzle. I think about this all the time in my spare time. Why is J. Duplass so irresistibly cute? All right, that's ridiculous. I mean, I do think about it, but here's my question. For young filmmakers or writers that would like to approach you, what would it take to make you look at their script or their trailer or their video or their pitch and say, oh wow, this is interesting. I want to work with this person. What would it take?
Oh, do you guys know Liz?
Yeah, I know Liz. We're old theater gal friends.
Yeah.
I did not ask her to ask you that. That was all her.
Please talk a lot about how cute Jay is in front of 400 people. He loves it. That is a really great question, and it is a weird scenario to be in. And like we were talking about before, Puffy Chair really became a target for lots of up-and-coming filmmakers because it was a very successful $10,000 movie. And people were like, oh, I can do that. You know, I can at least come up with $10,000. I really don't know what it takes. You know, there's a couple of parts to that question. One is just DM me over Instagram because it's the best way, I think. You know, just send a link over Instagram. And, you know, I probably only check it every month or two. But I can go through things and I'll click on things. And I do my best to watch stuff. I mean, just at this point in my life, it has to be something I can watch. It can't be a script because the truth is, and it's brutal, is that a script is at best a third of a movie. Mm-hmm. It's not a completed work of art, and that's not a diss to screenwriters here. It's just the truth. It's the third of a movie, and that's the best scripts in the world can turn into terrible movies, and really mediocre scripts can be turned into great movies with the right director. Less so, but you know, that's a tricky part, you know. So I can't really read stuff, but you know, this kid Cooper Rife, who's like a very renowned filmmaker right now, like 10 years ago, tweeted at me and he said, "I dare you to watch this," and I watched it, and it was great. Yeah. And it was. What it was a 60-minute feature film he made with his girlfriend that was a template for a movie that he eventually made that is called Shithouse or Freshman Year because they can't say Shithouse online or whatever. But it won South by Southwest and is very successful. And he's, you know, he made this movie called Cha Cha Real Smooth after. And he's just in the first 5 minutes, I knew he had it. And this is what's important, is like, it's not that Cooper Rife has it. His filmmaking had it. Everybody has it. We all have it. We all have God inside of us. We all can channel greatness. Filmmaking is an insanely complex art form. You have to synthesize like 40 talents, you know? Yeah. And we live in this culture where people think you're going to wake up one morning, you're going to make a movie. It's either going to be good or bad. And if it's good, it means you're a good filmmaker. If it's bad, it means you're a bad filmmaker. And nothing could be further from the truth. There's not a single painter, because painting has existed for thousands of years. Right. No one in their right mind would expect to sell their first painting for millions of dollars. Or even $20. I mean, really, like, you know, I grew up in New Orleans. There's a lot of fine artists that I came up around. And, like, no one would even think of trying to have a show until they're 500 paintings in, unless they're sociopathically confident, which sometimes works to your advantage. So if you can do that, do it. Yeah. But that's, you know, that's a complex art form as well. We're talking about craziness here. We're talking about, you know, storytelling. We're talking about being able to lead a group of 100 people or even just 15 people, being able to, you know, being able to create life and realistic things in the fakest circumstances possible. Yeah. You know, you're talking about set design and sound recording and lighting and cinematography. I mean, and so what we have to do is just give ourselves the chance to just make a lot of art, to make a lot of movies. And so what I would say in a roundabout long way is like, don't send me your short film unless you know it's great. Mm-hmm. Just don't. Yeah. Find out if it's great.
Yeah.
I used to say in the old days, people would be like, what do you need? And that's kind of what Liz was saying. I was like, you need a DVD that you can hold in your hand, and you can hold it high, and you can say, this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. And if you can't say that, don't hold it up.
Wow, that's great.
Don't hold it up,
Yeah.
because, look, if you have a B minus, don't hold it up. Share it with your friends. Share it with other people. See if you can get it in film festivals. Learn from it. Hey, why didn't this work for you? What wasn't there for you? Because the truth is like, no one should be spending a lot of money on art unless they really have a hold of who they are and what they uniquely have to offer, and they've already proven to themselves that they know how to pull it off. Because I'll just tell you right now, one actress is not going to fix your filmmaking skill set. One location is not going to level you up, and then all of a sudden you got into South by Southwest when you couldn't get in before. That's not how it works. You either get there, and even when you get there, I mean, the Coen brothers have made bad movies, guys.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. There's so many, I think there's maybe like 20 things that have to go right for a film to be excellent across the board. And if one of those things goes wrong, that movie doesn't become almost excellent. It becomes, yeah, it was all right. So, that sounds intimidating, but the upside is if you have an iPhone and a laptop, you can make a feature film for free. You can make a short film on the weekend. People should be doing that. People should be making lots and lots of art, falling on their faces. I did it on accident.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to take 10 years of relentless art making before I made one $3 short film that didn't suck.
Right.
I didn't think it would take that long. I wish it didn't, but it did. And in retrospect, you meet all these filmmakers that I know now, they all have these secret films in their past. They all have like weird, and that everyone has weird journeys and massive failure.
Yeah.
I mean, think about one of our other Louisiana filmmakers, Steven Soderbergh's first movie, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, I think is his best movie, personally. That's just my taste.
Yeah.
But one thing that everyone will acknowledge is he had a massive success as like a 26-year-old with that film. And then he made 6 pretty much unknown like movies that just kind of disappeared and went nowhere. Really? So he's one of the people who kind of lucked out and like nailed it on the first go, even though he made plenty of short films and all that stuff. But then he had this huge period of failure.
Yeah.
And then, he eventually broke through with the George Clooney J-Lo movie.
Yeah.
Out of Sight. Thank you.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about, and I know you'll be working with the filmmakers, but I have one last question before we take our break. Since you're in the seat back in your hometown in New Orleans, what would you tell the kid in New Metairie?
Oh, God.
What would you now, Jay, tell that Jay?
So he said, don't do it. Be yourself and try to enjoy it as much as you can along the way, because I was so hard on myself and so down on myself for so long, just be yourself and enjoy your life.
So good. Let's give Jay a round of applause. Thank him. Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, guys.